there's a time to shut up, put your big boy pants on, and just be ready to play. That's the bottom line.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. Today we've got 14 games to get through, but before we do any of that, we've also got... Actually, let me phrase that again. I've got 14 games we're going to get through review style, and then we're also going to preview the 5 Christmas Day games that will be occurring on Sunday. So there will be no podcast tomorrow, but you will have your 5-game preview for Sunday happening today. Before I get into all of that, I wish a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, whatever it is that you guys celebrate at this time of year. I wish you and your family all the best, and thank you for a great year. Thank you for supporting this podcast, whether you're a listener who's been listening for the last 3 seasons, the last 2 years, found it at the start of this year, or just got on board in the last week. It's really great to have everyone who is a listener to this podcast support the show in all the ways that you do, and listen to the show, download the show, tell your friends. Everything you do has been fantastic. So I owe everything, any minor success that this podcast has goes out to all the listeners of this show. So you all, I thank you all, and I hope everyone has a great holiday time of the year. But now, of course,
let's get to it.
Oh yeah, and no more sappy crap, Josh. Let's get straight back into the basketball action because there is 14 games that we've got to look at. So let's start with the monstrous line of the night, and of course, well, not of course, I suppose you could have guessed that Russell Westbrook was the monstrous line of the night. 45 points for Rusty, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. He hit 5 triples. He had a steal. He went 13 of 25 from the field and a whopping 14 of 16 from the free throw line. And after a time where he was dipping in the rankings over the last 2 weeks, he's the number 2 ranked player, and in large part because he's got his field goal percentage up to 46% over that time, and actually at 50% over the last 4 games. And that's what was really dragging him down. So, if you drafted him, you were probably in a punt field goal percentage situation anyway, and now you're just getting a huge bonus on top of that. He is still averaging a triple-double for the season, not over the last 2 weeks though, at 35, 9.5 and 9.1. He's just slipped under, but what he's doing in that time frame and recently is hitting his three-pointers at 42%. And if Russ Westbrook can start hitting three-pointers at 42%, then we're going to be looking at some pretty amazing numbers. But he is hitting 2.5 threes a game over the last 7 games at 42%. Which is just ridiculous sort of numbers, especially when on the year he's at 34 and the last 2 years he's been under 30%. So if that can start to come up, then we're talking about a whole new ball game for Russ. In fact, he's averaging 40 points over the last 4 games, which is really insane when you think about it. But that's basically what Rusty is at the moment. Some big numbers for Russ, and you're pretty happy with everything that's coming your way out of Russ Westbrook at the moment. Let's talk waiver wire line of the night, and it is Patty Mills of the San Antonio Spurs. 23 points for Millsy. He had 3 rebounds. He hit 5 triples as well, had 5 assists, 2 steals, and it was a very efficient 7 of 9 from the field. It was a non-Tony Parker game, so that does account for some of the extra run and production for Mills, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, and I think probably if the Spurs and Greg Popovich are being honest with themselves, Mills is the best point guard on this team, and it's not really close at the moment. He is somehow still a top 100 player this year, despite playing only 23 minutes a game. He's averaging 11.5 points, 2 triples, 3.5 assists, and a steal. But a lot of his value is coming from the fact that he's missed a total of 5 free throws for the year. He's hitting them at 93%, and he's at 48% from the field, which is ridiculous considering the last 2 years he was at 38 and 43. A big jump there, and a true shooting of 64% is obviously ridiculous. Is Mills a must-own guy to me? Despite having a top 100 ranking, I don't believe that he is. I think he's fine in a 12-team league, but his upside is capped, and if he goes back to, instead of having a good field goal percentage, goes back to having that below average one, then his other numbers, they're not really up to par. Like, it's decent scoring, but it's not great. The threes are fantastic, obviously, but steals, assists, they're nothing really spectacular for Mills. Absolutely fine to own him, but far from a must-own sort of player. Obviously, if Tone Parker was to go out for an extended period of time, then we'll be all over Paddy Mills. But even in games where Parker is out, we don't get 35 from Mills because Pop will run Nicholas Laprovitola, or like he did today, DeJounte Murray, who looked really good in his playing time. So that does put somewhat of a cap on what Mills can do. And these guys who are really fueled by extraordinarily odd efficiencies, which is where Mills is at the moment, I don't really label them as must-own players, because when that goes south, then the other numbers aren't there to buoy their value up. And for you Americans, when I say buoy, that's that's the way that we pronounce the word that you say, buoy. Don't know why, but that's just what it is. So I think I've said that before, and someone called me out and said, well, what are you talking about with buoy? Buoy equals buoy, B-U-O-Y. But anyway, if he's got these high percentages that are keeping his value afloat, then when or if he reverts back to career numbers, because we're talking a guy that's 6% over field goal percentage from last year and 13% above his free throw percentage. We're talking about a 10% jump in his true shooting percentage. These are big jumps, 6% in three-pointers. And if they come back to earth a bit, then he goes from the 85th ranked player to the 120th ranked player, the 140th ranked player. And there's no real use in that. But obviously, he's not a guy that you absolutely dismiss straight away. If you want to hear more about Paddy Mills, obviously Locked On Spurs is the way to go. Locked On Podcast Network has a podcast for every team in the NBA. So whatever your favorite team is, you can find that podcast. Go listen to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
My name is Jeff.
And he will cover everything about the Spurs, including their victory against the Blazers today, what to make of Dwayne Dedmon, what's happening with LaMarcus Aldridge, did he break out of his slump finally today? Jeff will have all that action, so go and check out Locked On Spurs, but check out any other Locked On podcast across the network that fits your needs. The young gun of the night, yes, Broggo, Malcolm Brogdon, 17 points for Broggo, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 3 triples. A perfect 7 of 7 from the field. So that obviously inflates his value. But over the last 3 games, Malcolm Brogdon is the 32nd ranked player. It's ridiculously good. Now that is inflated significantly by the fact that he's at 70% from the field in that playing time. But the fact that he is getting more playing time, and in those 3 games, he's had 19 assists. He's had 6 steals. He's had 4 triples. He's had 45 points. So we're talking averages 11, 3, and 6, 2 steals, 1.3 triples. Forget the 70% shooting. You could also look at his free throws and go, man, why is he hitting only 50% of them when he's an 85% shooter? So that could go up. There's a lot to like here about Brogdon. I've been talking about Brogdon since September, since Middleton went down with that injury. We've been talking about Brogdon. He is the perfect fit. He is better than Tony Snell. He is Rashad Vaughn, man. There's not even a contest with Rashad Vaughn. And at the moment, he is playing so much better than what Matthew Dellavedova is. So, Brogdon, if you've got a spot on a 12-team league that's sort of just sitting there and is usable for a streamer, grab him. Let's see where it goes. There are other guys who are more must-add, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Shout out to Alfred Payton. But Broggo, this is happening. Snell's terrible. Daly is average, and Brogdon is flying. And he won't shoot this way. There's no worries about that. But as a rookie, he's shooting 44 from the field, 85 from the line, and 45 from 3 for the season, which is across 28 games. That gives us more of an indication rather than the 70% he's shooting in these last 3, or even the 53% he's shooting over the last 7. Really some good numbers from Brogdon. I like where it's happening with him, and I think that he should be playing next to Dellavedova as the 2, and then when Chris Middleton returns, whether that's this season or next season, then I could easily see Brogdon moving over and being the starting point guard on this team. Love him in Dynasty, and really, you've got to take a look in a 12-team league. Now, as for Middleton, some news came out about Chris saying that he was looking at coming back maybe after the All-Star game if everything went perfectly. So, obviously, everyone's rushing to go and grab Chris Middleton. I wouldn't be so fast on that. We're talking about 6 weeks away, 8 weeks away from the All-Star break, and he'd be returning after the All-Star break. And he's not coming back and playing 35 minutes a night. That's straightforward. He might do that once you get to the end of March, but I think that he might come back, and this is, again, if everything goes to plan, he might be back say at the start of March, or he might be back then, which is fantasy playoff time. You can't hold a bloke on your team that might be playing 15 minutes a night for 2 weeks. Yeah, the actualized ideal of Chris Middleton is really impressive. Man, this guy's fantastic. He's got top 20 upside. We know that. But we won't get that initially. You won't get that for the first 2 weeks. And you hold on to a bloke like that who might play, say, 2 out of the first 3 games, sit one, play 15 minutes a night. You're not making it any further in the playoffs. So, yeah, if you've got someone that's absolutely, can be dropped, you can put Middleton in your IR, fine. But then when someone else gets injured, you've got to make that decision. What do I do? How do I use my IR slot? Do I put this other player in there and get rid of Middleton? And in general, the answer is going to be yes. But he does have obviously tremendous upside, but there's so many ifs working here. If he comes back at all, if he comes back on time, if he comes back at full health, which is basically a no chance. So take a look at him for sure. Have a look at how your team looks. Have you got expendable players? Do you have IR slots? But otherwise, if it's a non-dynasty, I can't see Middleton. This would be very similar to the 2 seasons ago. Let's grab Paul George and stash him for when he comes back at the end of the season. And that didn't work out. Middleton's injury is a different one to George's, obviously, but it's the legs. He's not playing big minutes for the first week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks of his return, and that's going to kick your ass out of the playoffs. So have a look at it, but do not get your hopes up, and a lot of the ads are going to be made fruitlessly, I believe. Let's talk dud of the night. This is another guard that I do really like, a young guard, Rod Hood, who struggled. Yep, pants still being shut, obviously. 2 points for Hood, 0 rebounds, 1 assist, no steals, no blocks, and a 1 of 6 from the field. He managed just 13 minutes because he is still ill. He hasn't been awesome this season, especially lately, but the minutes have been a problem for him with injuries, hamstrings, guts going, all that sort of stuff. So I wouldn't look at his last 2-week rank and go, man, he's ranked 288. That's shit. And that was no pun intended, because there's been a lot of injuries in that. He's ranked 133rd this year in under 30 minutes a game. He's averaging still 15 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 triples a game on 42 and 77%. He is still I did drop Rod in a 10-team league today to grab Lord Alfred because I wanted the assists. But in a 12-team league, there's no reason to me that you shouldn't be owning Rod Hood. It'll be interesting to see exactly how everything runs when Georgie Hill comes back, when Hood is at full health. But he is a key part of what they do, and he's a very, very good player. The Jazz are over 8 points per 100 possessions better with Hood on the court. He's got a career-best PER this season. His win shares are still above average, positive box score. All the numbers are very similar to last year in situations where he hasn't been fit and healthy for the majority of the year. And that's obviously limiting what he can do. But if he's around on a waiver wire in a 12-10 league, I'd be grabbing him straight away and just seeing how this pans out. But I do imagine he is going to finish the year as close to a top 100 guy if he gets a few of these things rolling, gets some luck with some health, and starts to pick things up. And I do believe that he can, because he's an extraordinarily talented player who had not a great day today. Let's go into these games now, talk about them in a little bit of extra detail. The first game we're going to look at is the Chicago Bulls and the Charlotte Hornets. The Bulls, I guess, unsurprisingly, got smashed, and they were a mess. They had their two starting front court players ejected. Robin Lopez and Taj Gibson both ejected. They both played decent minutes, 33 for Robin and 30 for Taj, 10 and 3 for Gibson with 2 blocks, while Lopez had the 2 blocks and 9 rebounds as well. And Gibson's minutes have come back up over the last couple after a stretch where he was struggling a little bit, but obviously still 12-team league guys. Jim Butler had 26 points, a nice efficient night for him, and this was as Rajon Rondo as it gets, just the 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting, but 9 boards, 10 assists, 2 steals, still doing exactly what you need for fantasy. It's just his on-court play, which is just so horrendous. We also had a Dougie McDermott sighting, 15 points with 3 triples for Doug in 33 minutes. I wouldn't be getting my hopes too high up for him to become a standard league sort of guy. Nick Mirotic he struggled. He hit just 5 of 16 shots, but still had a double-double, 11 and 10, and had a triple-1 as well in these 19 minutes. And it just shows the sort of value that he has. But again, I feel really reticent to think that he is a 12-team league guy just because the minutes aren't there enough. And if they were at 26, then sure, but they're just not. There's just not enough minutes, despite a double-double, triple-1 being a really good night. It's just not enough for me for 12-team leagues for Mirotic. For the Hornets, Nick Batum had his first triple-double of the season. In fact, he had a triple-double, triple-one. 20, 11, and 10 with a 3, with a steal, with a block. A really good night from Batum. And Kemba Walker, he was solid as well. 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Marco Bellinelli hurt his ankle after just 7 minutes. He had a 7 trillion, and that enabled Michael Kidd-Gilchrist to play 33 minutes. So don't look at MKG and go, shit, man, this is... Well, actually look at it and go, this is awesome. But understand why. Understand the fact that Bellinelli wasn't there, and that's the way that Clifford's been going. Let's play 23, 24 minutes for Kidd-Gilchrist, 28 or 29 for Bellinelli. So with Marco out, Kidd-Gilchrist played 33. He went 12, 9, and 2. He had a steal and 4 blocks, which is terrific. And if we hear that Bellinelli is out extended time, then Kidd-Gilchrist is going to have short-term 12-team league value. But if Bellinelli is fine, then Kidd-Gilchrist will probably go down to low to mid minutes in the 20s, and there's no reason to own him in that situation. So don't think that this is breakout Kidd-Gilchrist game. I love Kidd-Gilchrist, but this was forced onto Clifford by the injury. Cody Zeller owned in 49% of leagues, so 51% of people or leagues are sleeping. 13 and 7 for Zeller, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. The free throw percentage issue has been fixed from earlier in the season. He's going to be a top 100 guy. He should be owned absolutely everywhere, and it staggers me that his number is still below 50. Marv Williams wasn't a great Marv Williams night. 24 minutes for Marv, 9 points, but got that block, got the 2 steals, had a triple, so some decent numbers there. He is a borderline 12-teamer, while Frank Kaminsky bounced back out of a pretty extended slump, had 13 points in 24 minutes, but we'll leave him for the deeper leagues only. Let's talk Los Angeles Lakers and Orlando Magic. The Lakers got pummeled, but it's good to see back-to-back games for D'Angelo Russell playing 30 minutes. He had 30 in this one, 15, 2, and 3, 2 steals, 1 block. Really good stuff from Russell. I think that there is a definite top 50 finish for him in his future for the rest of the year. So I love the fact that he's getting these 30 minutes as well. Jordy Clarkson is also playing much better since Russell is back. His shooting percentage is through the roof. He's at 50% over the last 2 weeks. 18-5 with 4 threes in this game. So he was struggling a lot when those players were injured, but now that D'Angelo is back, he is back on board and he is putting up not super high value, but late round value. Speaking of that late round value, Lou Deng is a top 70 player over the last 2 weeks. 31 minutes for Dengi, 11 and 10, 3 assists, 1 block and a 3. And the most important thing is he continually gets 30 minutes a night. And he's playing more like Miami Luol Deng rather than early Los Angeles Lakers Luol Deng. And that's impressive. And I'm not normally a big Luol Deng fan, but you can go and grab him because this new role seems to be stuck for at least this time being. No Larry Nance, no Julius Randle, no Tariq Black. So Thomas Robinson got another 19 minutes, had 11 boards with a block in 19, but don't think that he's necessarily sticking in the rotation. And the Lou Williams regression to the mean, this is what happens. 13 points on 11 shots, not much else there for Lou in 21 minutes, but still got that free throw percentage ticking over, going 6 of 7 from the line. This is why I don't believe that Lou will remain a top 50 player, but he's absolutely still an ownable guy. A weird Nick Young game as well. Uncle P had just 5 points, but he brought it in the defensive categories. 2 steals and 2 blocks, just count that as a significant bonus for Uncle P. 9, 3, and 2 for Brandon Ingram. He started but only played the 23 minutes, and we got 17 Zubac minutes. They weren't great, but he played, so that's awesome. Also, still 45 seconds of Metta World Peace is 45 seconds too many. For the Magic, there were some big performances here. Serge Ibaka, 19 and 11 in under 30 minutes, a 3, 2 steals, 5 blocks. A really big night from Serge, and this is a really strong period from him where we're talking about top 30 sort of numbers over the last couple of weeks. I do believe that he remains a top 50 guy this year, maybe even the top 40. But the big story to me is Lord Alfred Payton, who he just looks like he gets it these days. 30 minutes, 25, 3 and 9, 3 triples, 1 steal and 1 block. So I'll throw out the caveat, he's playing the Lakers, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA. But even before that, he's playing fantastically. Now, the overwhelming thought process with Payton is, you have to be a punt field goal percentage team to own him. Do you? He's shooting 44% this year. He's shooting 48% over the last 2 weeks. And in college, he was a 50% shooter. Not because he's a good shooter, but because he can finish and because he picks his spots and hits them. And he continually just seems to be pushing into the 20-point mark in scoring. He's giving you big assist numbers. He can be a guy, and I made this proclamation earlier in the year. There was a chance to me that Payton could average 8 assists and 2 steals. And you know what? Maybe if he keeps going on this path, he's not far away. DJ Augustine is terrible. He played 18 minutes to Peyton's 30, and this is the way they keep running things. And Peyton should be owned in every league. Despite coming off the bench, he's playing more minutes recently, and he's a top 100 guy, comfortably clears that top 100 mark without any doubt whatsoever. There'll be some nights where there's some stinkers at 10, 4, and 3 or something like that, but the good is far outweighing the bad, and Peyton has to be owned. As for DJ, he's just a deep league guy. 11, 2, and 4 is not terrible, but he's getting outplayed. There was no Evan Fournier out with a heel issue, so Jody Meeks started and had 9 and 5, while CJ Watson got some extra run and had 11 points with 4 assists. We don't imagine that Fournier's issue, it's a heel contusion, is going to be a long-term thing, so Meeks and Watson, just leave them where they were. I don't think we need to do much there. A shit Aaron Gordon night, still at a 1-1, but 9 and 7. He's just playing out of position, and he's just not going to get better in this position, I don't believe. So no real need for me to hold on to him in a 12-team league. Well, Jeff Green, yeah, do I drop it again? Yeah, why not?
My name is Jeff.
Yeah, 6 points for Jeff in 20 minutes. He's horrible. He's not a good player, and he is a probably 16-team league guy at best. Another 3 black blocks for Bismack with 9 boards in 28 minutes, while Vucevic had 11, 7, and 3 with a steal and a block in 26 minutes. Just give Vuce 30 plus. I wish they would. It's just not going to happen. There's just too many. What a shitly constructed team. But they got the victory, so congratulations to the Magic. It just puts a real limit on the ceiling of a lot of these guys on this team. Let's move on to the next game now. The Golden State Warriors and the Detroit Pistons. The Warriors back-to-back on the road, so didn't get a blowout of the Pistons, so that enabled most of their players to stay in for big chunks of minutes. Draymond was back. He played 38, and he had a double-double, a rebounds and assist double-double, which doesn't happen all that often. It's happened 12 times over the past 3 seasons, and Draymond's had 5 of those. The other players to have multiple ones, Rajon Rondo and Rick Rubio, with Johnny Wall surprisingly having one in there as well, and Joakim Noah having one in there too. But that's the value of Green. But you knew that. When you drafted him, you had to get your points somewhere else, or you had to punt them. He had 5, 10, and 12, but he had 2 steals and a block, and this is exactly what he does. Curry had 25, 3, and 8 with 5 triples. Durant had 32, 8, and 3 with 3 triples. And Pierre JaVale McGee, 9 minutes, I don't want to undersell him. 9 minutes, 15 points for McGee with a block. But for as good as that looks, and it looks great, how do we think that JaVale is going to play 20 minutes, which is what he'd need to even really come into 12-team consideration? At this point, we're looking at 20-teamers, but he is clearly the one, or is he the best center? Zaza's had his moments. Zaza's been good, but JaVale is obviously ahead of Andy Varejao, Kevon Looney, and probably competes with West, but he just doesn't have an ability to get big enough minutes, or large enough minutes would be a better way to say that. Klay Thompson had 17 in his 37 minutes, while Zaza, back to a usual minute load, went 7 and 7 in 19 minutes. For the Pistons, they made that change to their starting lineup, and it was Toby Harris that went to the bench in place of Johnny Lua, but Harris was fine. 32 minutes for Toby, 26 and 7 with 4 triples on 8 of 14 shooting. So this is sort of what I pontificated yesterday, saying that maybe Toby going to the bench suits him. Bigger usage, ability to get more rebounds, to score the ball more, and that all came true. But is it because Marcus Morris played only 20 minutes with 4 fouls? Could be. Now, I would argue that Marcus Morris is not a good player, and that Marcus Morris probably shouldn't be getting 30 a night anyway, at 28 or 29 maybe. Start him, that's fine, but run Toby with the bench guys and get the minutes there. So this sort of minutes distribution is not something that I actually hate for the Pistons. But let's see exactly what Van Gundy does when Morris doesn't have those 4 fouls. Contovious Caldwell-Pope loves playing the Warriors. 25 points with 4 triples, 2 assists, 2 steals, and a block. While Johnny Lua in the starting lineup played 33 minutes, so that's a big tick. Only 8 and 7, so not a great night, but you do want to own him in 12-team leagues. I don't think his ceiling is that high, but he should have, instead of being that guy where I continue to talk about it, saying he'll have consistent 120 value, with an extra 4 or 5 minutes, he might have consistent 90 value, 95 value, which is going to make him obviously much more useful and much more valuable, or much more what's the word I'm trying to look for? Much more worthy of being a must-own player. Reggie Jackson, he got his 30 minutes, he had 17, 3, and 6, but if you're a new listener, let me reiterate this. This is not, oh man, wait when he gets 34 minutes. This is it. This is Reggie, 30 minutes. This is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to be. 15 and 9 for Drummond with 2 blocks as well. Well, Stan Johnson did some defensive things. 3 steals for Stan in 18 minutes with 5 points. He's clearly beaten back Darren Hilliard now, so he is that first wing off the bench along with Toby Harris, and that's increasing his value in dynasties. But I still do think he's got a long way to go, but you can still buy pretty considerably low on Big Stan Johnson. Let's move on to the Brooklyn Nets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Smashing in this game, so the minutes were spread all over the place. We can see just the 22 for Brookie Lopez, 16 points in two blocks. Jezza Lynn played just 25, 10, 2, and 6. So don't get too worked up about this game. Trevor Booker was resting. He is definitely coming back to the mean. I did talk about him the other day, saying that you 10-team league, you probably don't want to hold on to Booker. The steals are coming back to career numbers. The percentage had dipped a fair bit. I would still hold in 12s, but he's a definite guy to watch. Justin Hamilton started in his place, 8 and 6 in 19 minutes. Remember when he was like a hot pickup guy to start the year? Well, that died in the ass. 23 minutes for Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, 8, 3 and 1 with a steal. Continuing just to be a real tease, like just giving us numbers that are decent without being shit. We've got to go and own this guy. I would put him behind, say, an Alfred Payton. I'd even put him behind a Malcolm Brogdon in terms of guys to own. But he's definitely coming that way and putting up some impressive numbers. Speaking of impressive, how's my boy Karis LeVert? 24 minutes for LeVert, 9, 7 and 2, 2 threes, 1 steal, 1 block. 24 minutes for LeVert could be something that we see him getting, say, end of January. Consistently, this team is devoid of prospects, and LeVert is a prospect. And when I say prospect, he's not, he's a prospect that's going to take 4 years. I mean, he is a good player in waiting, and he is a young guy that they've got that they can build around, him and Rondé. So let's see what LeVert does. But I love his fantasy game. Threes, steals, assists, rebounds, scores, good percentages. Not much not to like about LeVert. Love him in Dynasty, and not a 12-team league guy, far from it just yet. But this is an encouraging sign, and this is what, if you want to get ahead of guys, like you would have done with Brogdon if you listened to this podcast for the last 3 months, LeVert is that guy. LeVert is the guy, after the All-Star break, that is going to be, shit, where did this come from? Why is LeVert getting 30 minutes a night and putting up top 100 numbers? That's potentially what could happen with this guy, because he does have the ability to do that. Anthony Bennett had 11 points in 14 minutes. Would have liked to have seen him get more playing time with Booker out, but wasn't to be. And Bojan Bogdanovic was scoreless in 20 minutes. You can do better than him in standard leagues. For the Cavs, Kyrie is dishing assists at a phenomenal rate. 40 assists over his last 4 games, 13, 5, and 10 here, and 6 steals. So the steal numbers have come back up for Kyrie as well, and that was something that he was struggling with to start the year. He's a top 10 player over the last 2 weeks. And as usual, he's a very high efficiency finisher. Can he be a top 20 guy this year? Absolutely he can be. And he was a guy that I said, a guy you could grab at the end of the second round who's got a real chance to push himself into the top 12. Kyrie is that guy. And I still believe that after a somewhat slow start, if he keeps these assists going, gets the steals back to sort of career numbers, and continues to score the way that he has, there's no reason why he can't. Big night for Tristan Thompson, 16 and 11 with a steal and a block, while LeBronald went 19, 5, 6 with 3 steals in his 27 minutes, because this was a blowout. Minutes were spread all over the place. Not much else to really talk about. Iman Shumpert played 18. DeAndre Liggins played 17 minutes, and Shumpert's still the guy that if you are grabbing one of these guys replacing J.R. Smith, then Shumpert is going to be the guy. But they're going to have sustained value because J.R. Smith's not out for 6 weeks. He is out for 4 months. He is out for the rest of the regular season, basically. So obviously you're dropping Smith, and Shumpert can have value. It's definite a 14-team league guy and a borderline 12-team league player. But just be aware of that new time frame that's out for J.R. Smith with that broken thumb. OKC and Boston, Domantas Sabonis had a career-high 20 points in 25 minutes. Hit 4 triples, didn't do a lot else. I wouldn't be running to grab Domantas. He'd leave him in the 16 to 18 team zone. This is a little bit of a fluky performance. And he was joined by Enes Kanter in the 20-point scoring club. 23 minutes for Enes, 20 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 62% from the field. This is standard Enes Kanter. Give him 29 minutes and he's a top 40 player. But Billy Donovan will not do that, and that limits what he can do. I still believe that you want to own him, absolutely no doubt, because he's putting up these big numbers in limited minutes, and then you get the occasional, where did this come from? You should know where it comes from. It just comes from, this is just what he does. Steve Adams, 8 and 11, 2 steals and a block, a solid performance there, while Jeremy Grant had 3 blocks in his 24 minutes. The Alex Abrines show was curtailed, just the 3 points in 6 minutes for Abrines, while Andre Robertson, half triple-double, 5, 5, and 4 with 2 blocks, but some pretty poor free throw shooting, going 1 of 6. Robertson is an okay 12 guy, but I reckon he's more a 14 team league guy. While Anthony Morrow, I reckon he's back in Billy Donovan's doghouse. Barely played last season. He had a little run before Oladipo got injured where he was playing 20 plus minutes, but now that he's starting, he played just 12 minutes here, and he looks to be coming out of favour with Bill Donovan. Cameron Payne should also be back within the next week or two. Fingers crossed. For the Celtics, it was Isaiah Thomas with 34 points on 22 shots. Ridiculous. 10 assists and 2 triples for Thomas, while Al Horford had a very well-rounded 23, 6, and 4 with 2 steals, 1 block, and 3 triples. Also, don't discount this big night from Amir Johnson. 17, 6, and 5 with 2 steals and a 3. And he's sort of, putting up some decent numbers recently. Not looking at him in 12s at this point, looking more at 14 to 16s, but it's worth noting the increase in performance. Marcus Smart had a very Marcus Smarty night, 7 points on 3 of 10 shooting, but 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and a triple one is what he does. Not a must-own 12-team league guy, in my opinion, as much as I do love him, because the minutes are not 30, they're 25 now, which is the concern. But at 30 minutes in a punt field goal situation, he would use it. Well, he would have value in that situation. Jay Crowder, yuck, 3 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 steals. I've never been fully on the Jay Crowder bandwagon. I was proven to look like a dick last year, but he hasn't been fantastic this season. He wasn't great to end last year as well. You obviously still need to hold on to him, but there's a few worrying signs from Crowder, I would say, at this point. Just not putting up the sort of numbers that he needs to. Not a great Avery Bradley night as well, 16 and 6, but horrendous percentages really curtailed his night. Kelly Olynyk, just the 13 minutes, scoreless, and that is why I continue to tell you about Olynyk, that I do like him, but when the minutes are like this, then you can't really like him, unfortunately. The next game, the Miami Heat and the New Orleans Pelicans, still no Wayne Ellington, Scooter Magruder, or Dion Waiters. So Goran Dragic played 34 minutes and went 23, 4, and 5. Great efficiency except from the line, but a nice 10 of 17 shooting from Goran. And we had Joshie Richardson again failing to be able to shoot 2 of 8 for 7 points with 3 assists and a steal. Love him, but the shooting is a real pain, and I don't believe that he is a must-own player at this point. James Johnson, again, another big night. 11 and 10 for Jimmy, a block, a 3, but the 22 minutes is a concern. That's where my worry is with Johnson, and if he could get the 28 minutes, I'd love him in 12-team leagues. I just have a real concern with these guys coming back that he's not going to be able to get enough minutes to be a standard 12-team league guy. Justice Winslow had a great night shooting against the Lakers. Against the Pelicans, not so much. 6 of 16. Still had 12, 7, and 3, but this is the downside of Winslow. This is what we've seen for basically all of this season, is the poor shooting nights with middling counting stats. 12, 7, and 3 is all right, but it's a big, big dip in terms of the shooting that we saw the other night. Whiteside, 10 and 18 with a couple of blocks. The free throws did not stick in this one, while Tyler Johnson had 11, 3, and 1. For the Pals, big Anthony Davis night, 28 and 22 with 2 triples, a steal, and 4 blocks, a huge night there. And Drew Holiday, only the 27 minutes for Drew. He got himself into really early foul trouble, came out of the game in about the first 4 minutes. 22 points he finished with, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals. Drew Holiday is really good, and he's going to get better. So if you can somehow snag Drew Holiday for a guy that's not a top 50 player, I would absolutely be doing that. Alvin Gentry made a change to the starting lineup, putting Dante Cunningham in there instead of Solly Hill. Cunningham, one of Gentry's favourites for whatever reason. Defense, I know it is. Played 34 minutes, 5, 7, and 2 with 2 blocks, while Hill went down to 24 minutes. But the flow-on effect from this meant that Timmy Frazier played 9 minutes. And this is a game where Drew Holiday had foul trouble. Frazier did not see the court at all in the second half. 2 points, 2 rebounds. This is the concern with Frazier. We've still got Tyreek Evans to increase his minutes. Frazier had been putting up good numbers. I wouldn't be rushing to drop him, but his rest of season outlook is not rosy with this sort of shit happening. And they did give an extra run to Langston Galloway in this one, who'd been out of the rotation. And Gentry changes his mind every 5 seconds, so it's really tough to get a full grasp on that. But this was not a great night for Fraser, and it does portend a little bit to how the future looks. Now, Galloway had 11 in his 29 minutes. We're not grabbing him outside of deeper leagues, while 26 minutes for Etuan Moore yielded a 1-1 and not a lot else. And Bud Hield had 3 points in his 18 minutes. So his slight little peek around the 12-team corner is the door's been shut in his face. In fact, it's been shut in his face and his fingers have been jammed in it. That's how piss poor he's been the last couple of games. As for Tyreek, 15 minutes, 7, 5, and 5. This is the Tyreek that we like. This is the Tyreek that we hope that we can get. 7, 5, 5 in 14 minutes is fantastic. You put that to 30 minutes, 12, 10, and 10. That's a nice triple-double. 14, 10. I can't add 14, 10, and 10 with 2 steals and 2 threes. That's a good triple-double. And this is what Tyreek can do. But it's going to be a long road. It's going to be at least a couple of weeks, I think, until we get him even approaching 25 minutes. And that makes him, if your team's struggling, to hold not necessarily a 0, but to hold a guy that's sub-12 team for the time being, is that going to be enough for you? Is it going to work in your favour? Don't know. No Terrence Jones in this one as well. So Alexia Jinsa got some minutes back. Didn't do much with him. 5 and 5 with 2 blocks. The next game we take a look at, we go on to the Memphis Grizzlies and the Houston Rockets travelling to Memphis to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Ryan Anderson was crazy from 3. He had 8 triples for 31 and 7. Added the 2 blocks, which is a real bonus for Anderson. He's been playing a little bit better since Capella has been out. We all know his story, though. Don't expect much in the other stats apart from points and threes. Well, Jimmy Harden went 16, 7, and 17. Another good Pat Bev night, 13, 6, and 1. Another good Eric Gordon night, 17, 2, and 4 with 4 triples, a steal, and a block. But Montrezl Harrell's the guy that I'm sure you want to hear about. 28 minutes for Montrezl, 16 and 8. And the important thing there is 28 minutes. It's 2 games in a row with 28. He started 2 in a row and taking on the majority of Clint Capella's minutes and looking good in them. I don't believe that he is any threat to Capella when he comes back. He still is not the same guy as Capella. Capella is still a much better player. But for now, for these next 6 weeks, Harrell should be owned in 12-team leagues. He probably won't be quite as good as this moving forward in every game, but these have been 2 impressive games in a row for Montrez. In Nene, nothing's changing with Nene. Forget about that. Sammy Decker, if you grabbed him, that's not happening either. 5 points in 17 minutes for Sammy. On to the Grizz. Mike Conley, 24 points in 29 minutes, had 5 assists and 3 triples. A good Mike Conley night, while Marcus Sol wasn't too efficient, going 5 of 14 for 16, 5 and 4, but still had the 2 blocks, still had a steal, still was 6 of 6 from the line. So overall, a pretty good night. Decent night from Zebo as well, dropping 16 points in under 20 minutes. While Vince Carter got hot off the bench, had 14, including 4 triples. Obviously, Vince is just a deeper league guy. Now, Chandler Parsons in that 15-minute Tyreek Evans time zone, 4 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Both him and Tyreek have top 50 upside, but it is going to be somewhat of a slow process for Chandler and Tyreek. Jimmy Ennis had 13 in 21 minutes, but there's no real standard league value in him anymore. While Tone Allen just the 9 points, but 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. He is barely hanging on to 12-team league value, and it does really depend on your team. I don't think JaMychal Green's a 12-teamer. 27 minutes for him, 7 and 5 in this one. And Andy Harrison had the 6 assists, but really talking about a 16-team league guy at this point, I think. Sacramento and Minnesota. Boogie, 32, 7, 7, 3 triples, 4 steals, 2 blocks is a crazy line. 13 of 24 from the field is great. You don't love 3 or 5 from the line, but otherwise a fantastic night from DeMarcus Cousins. They were still without Rudy Gay and Omri Caspi, the King, so that meant more minutes from Anthony Tolliver. 31 minutes for Tolliver, 17 points, including 5 triples, and you'd have to think. Actually, Rudy Gay was okay to play. They just didn't play him. So you'd have to think that Tolliver's play of late is potentially keeping him in the rotation moving forward. Does that mean that he's ownable? Sure, in 20-team leagues, yes, because I don't think he's getting 30 a night moving forward, but he's been impressive in this playing time. A guy that hasn't been impressive is Darren Collison, who stunk again, 3 points with 6 assists in 20 minutes. I have to think there's something else going on with Collison. I have to think there are mental issues going on. I'm not saying he's got a mental illness or anything like that. I think that there is fallback potentially happening from his domestic violence suit. There is home-based issues that is really impacting his play because he is so far off his game that it's not ideal. In a 10-team league, I reckon you can kick him out. I reckon he can go. In a 12-teamer, I guess it depends on who I'd be adding. I would still hold Collison, say, over a Malcolm Brogdon, but I would be okay moving on from Collison and grabbing Lord Alfred Payton. And what do we do with Ty Lawson? He played 28 minutes here, 15, 3 and 4 with 2 steals and 2 triples, and has looked very solid over the last week, putting up really good numbers. So, yeah, is Lawson someone to grab? Sure, he's absolutely worth a flyer because Collison is just not getting anything done and seems to have lost a lot of the faith of the coaching staff. But I wouldn't put a huge amount of faith in Lawson himself, given that he was so poor when Collison was out to start the year. We had 32 minutes of Matty Barnes, a 10, 5 and 5. That's just decent without being great. But he's a guy that can put up 12-team league value. It just doesn't feel like it's going to persist at that high level, which we've seen him have. Speaking of high levels, Zach LaVine on fire, 40 points, 7 triples, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 13 of 21 from the field. Zach LaVine is a top 15 player over the last 2 weeks. Yes, he is a top 15 player. He is shooting the absolute lights out. He is hitting 4 triples a game over the last 2 weeks, almost 26 points a game. He has been actualized under Tom Thibodeau, and he's got room to grow. If he can get his steals to 1.2, 1.3, then he could comfortably reside his ass inside the top 20 for even the rest of this year. But the steals are pretty low, but still a real threat. And Ricky Rubio. A lot of panicking, a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of criticism, a lot of trade Rubio talk. I reckon that's probably settled. He's good. He's still good. He was always good. And patience is obviously something that is needed. 34 minutes for Rubio, 13, 6 and 8, 3 steals, 3 triples. He's a guy that's a top 50 player over the last couple of weeks. Even if you count his field goal percentage, which is at under 40%. You punt that, you're talking about this is the Ricky Rubio I drafted. The assists, the high rebounds, the steals. This is Ricky Rubio. Not much is changing. It was just a little bit of a tough transition, but everything is back in business. 20, 13 and 5 for Karl Towns in 38 minutes. Another good night, while Gorgie Jeng only had the 6 points with 10 boards, 2 blocks and 1 steal. Still getting it done in the other areas, but the scoring is not there. Whereas the other way, 15 points for Andy Wiggins in 40 minutes, 1 block, 1 assist. No other numbers. And he'd been really been putting up some good numbers recently, but this was not one of those for Wiggo. And as per usual, the bench contributes sweet FA. Let's talk about the next game, which is the Washington Wizards and the Milwaukee Bucks. Otto Porter was playing. He played just the 25 minutes, but still 18 and 5 with 4 triples is a solid night, especially considering he hit 7 of his 9 shots, but still not enough shots for Otto. He needs to take more shots than that. So, Kelly Oubre, 14 minutes for Oubre. Enough on Porter. Kelly Oubre, 14 minutes for Oubre. He'd been trending up, playing 25 off the bench, looking like, hey, let's grab this guy in 12-teamers and see where it goes. But since his concussion, hasn't got back to it whatsoever. So I don't really think there's... if you did grab him, I reckon you can clearly move on. But interesting to see what happens. Maybe it's still just after effects from the concussion from Oubre, but he is struggling at the moment. Markieff, only the 26 minutes here. Now, this was a smashing, so we didn't have to have 50 minutes of Brad Beal. So everyone had their minutes dropped. 14 for Markieff in 26. Brad Beal went 10, 2 and 6, and Johnny Wall went 18, 3 and 10. So not a lot to really look at. It's a game where Daniel Achufu had 6 points in 11 minutes, so that probably tells you all you need to know from a Wizard side of things. For the Bucks, Yanni with a career-high 39 points, 8 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Look at the percentages, 12 of 19 from the field, 15 of 17 from the line. That issue is fixed. If he can just fix that issue, like he has, and then move on and fix his 3-point shooting, if you're in a keeper league, Yanni is a top 3 player. It is him. It is Towns, probably. Although I would probably have Yanni over Towns, to be honest, in a dynasty format at the moment. He is just doing everything. Absolutely everything. And Jabari Parker's doing all right himself. 21, 8 and 3 for Parker, 2 steals and 2 blocks, getting some defensive numbers in there, and he could really be a top 50 guy by the end of the year as well. Greggy Monroe played more minutes than Johnny Henson, as should be the case every game. 21 minutes for Greggy, 12 and 11, 4 assists, a steal, a block, a really well-rounded performance. Let's hope the kid comes to his senses, although that hasn't happened really at all through Jason Kidd's career. So yeah, my faith in it's low, but give him 27 minutes, we're talking top 50 or top 60 for Greggy. And that's a really good double-double in those limited minutes. Whereas Johnny Henson, 5 and 3 in 19 minutes. I don't think he's a must-own player anymore, and he has been trending down significantly. Matty Dellavedova, 22 minutes, 5 points, 4 assists. Yeah, look, it's not working out for him at the moment. That's for sure. Malcolm Brogdon's taking those minutes away, and it's not great for Delly. His assists were something that kept him viable in 12-team leagues, but if the minutes are going to dip down from 28 to 23, then no need for him in standards. Well, 11 points for Tone Snell in 27 minutes. That is still a few 2 minutes too many for Big Tone Snell. Let's talk Atlanta and Denver. No Dwighty Howard, no Timmy Hardaway, no Kyle Korver. So Chris Humphries made a start. 22 minutes for Hump, 10 points, 8 boards. That's just what he does. He'd been out of the rotation, so don't get too excited about this one. You have to get excited about Tabo Sefolosha. I don't understand how he's owned in 25% of leagues when he's been a top 100 player all season. Not just a top 100, like comfortably inside the top 100. 12, 4, and 3 for Tabo, 2 triples, 4 steals, 1 block. Has to be owned. Simple as that. Remember when people were panicking about Dennis Schroeder? What a bust. Worst pickup. Shit. Worst point guard in the league. Worst starting point guard in the league. What a waste of a pick. Yeah. 27, 6, and 5 for Dennis. 2 triples, 1 steal. Absolutely flying at the moment. Paul Millsap's been good as well. 28 and 3, 2 triples, a steal, and a block for Millsap. Not too efficient, but still a really nice line. While Mike Muscala had 13 in his 21 bench minutes. Kent Bazemore, this is the Kent Bazemore I know and love. 5, 2, and 4 in 31 minutes on 2 of 9 shooting. He is so infuriating with his up and downness. Still not a good player. And by next year, I don't reckon he's the starter. That's how poor I reckon he is. Look for guys like Torian Prince or even DeAndre Bembry, who played 19 minutes today. 9, 4, and 1 for Bembry with a steal. He's a real interesting wing player, Bembry. Great ball handler, good passer. And this team needs a secondary ball handler. So Bembry is definitely someone to keep an eye on in your dynasty leagues with his ability. If he can get his shot right and hit some threes, getting some assists and scoring and doing some defensive stuff, Bembry's going to be interesting, and I really reckon they need that role on the wing, and Bazemore's not up to it, in my opinion. For the Nuggets, Nick Jokic fouled out in 19 minutes. Still put up 8, 7, and 6 and had 3 blocks and gave you fantastic fantasy value, but man, just stay out of foul trouble for once, Nick. That would be great if he could do that. Now, normally in the games where Jokic has foul trouble, Ken Fareed steps in and puffs his chest out and has a big double-double. Well, he went for 4 and 4 in 21 minutes, and this is why I do guard against having Kenneth Faried in a 12-team league, because his value is explicitly tied to Nick Jokic missing time due to fouls. And then even if you'll need him to, in those games when that happens, to be out of control. And when he has a shit night, that doesn't make up for the nights where he just won't play. So this is why I don't think that Fareed is a 12-team league guy. Farton Will Barton played 34 minutes, went 12, 4, and 5 with a 3 and a block. Decent numbers. He's not a must-own guy to me, while Gaz Harris had 12, 2, and 4. Double-double from Wilson Chandler. Double-double from the Rooster, had 21 and 11. But Moutier he's surging at the moment. Now, this was a positive night to me because he played 28 minutes and he only hit 3 of 8 shots. Importantly, he was 10 of 10 from the free throw line. He had 17 points, he had 3 rebounds, and he had 5 assists. Really big numbers from Moutier, and he is not like Peyton, who could potentially be a punt field goal guy, which not potentially. That was a thought process on him. For Moutier, he is definitely a punt field goal percentage guy, but the minutes, the production is way up with him at the moment. So putting up some really good numbers, Manny, and probably should be owned in pretty much every league, but not necessarily by your team. It just depends, I guess, on how your team is set up. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Phoenix Suns, the process Joel Embiid, 27 and 7 with 2 blocks in 28 minutes, a huge night with huge percentages, and this was a Spanish chocolate night as well. 21, 2, and 7 for Sergio in the 26 minutes, hit 4 triples. He's been a little bit touch and go with TJ McConnell cutting into his playing time, but that's obviously a great performance from Sergio, and he does have 12-team upside. McConnell, 22 minutes only, 5, 2, and 2, so not a great night there. Ersan Ilyasova, another solid night, 14 points in 25 minutes, absolutely a 12-teamer. So is Bob Cove, who had 16, 2, and 4 with a 111, owned in under 70% of leagues, which is basically criminal at this point. Jahlil Okafor, only the 20 minutes for Jahlil. He had some foul trouble, so that limited what he could do, 6 and 4, and that meant Nerlens Noel got into the action. He had 10 minutes, Nerlens, 4 points, 3 steals, 1 block. And this is why we love him in fantasy, because the steals and the blocks are through the roof. The problem is we need him to get 25 plus minutes to be that guy that we want to own, and it doesn't look like it's happening in Philly. And if you own him now, you might be waiting 2 months for him to find himself on another team, and then what guarantees that the team he's on, he plays more than 20 minutes? That's the concern with Noel, but his upside is obviously pretty high. Dario Saric played 27 minutes and didn't do a lot. For the Suns, PJ Tucker, of course, 35 minutes for PJ Tucker. Why wouldn't you play 35 minutes to PJ Tucker? 15 and 6 for PJ, 3 triples, 4 steals and a block. And in fairness, it's a really good performance, but we don't need to see PJ Tucker, especially when Dragon Bender gets a DMPCD.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
It's directed at you, Earl Watson. Eric Bledsoe, 24, 2 and 11 with 3 blocks. A big night there. While Devin Booker had 23, 6 and 6 with 2 steals and 4 triples. Really coming back around at the moment, Booker. And when he's shooting it this way and more as engaged as he is, then he is a really talented player. He's always been a talented player, and I'd always have to defend myself about Booker. He just is not an elite shooter until he proves me he is. And he is turning it around in that category, really putting up some good fantasy numbers of late. Tyson Chandler had a 15 and 12 double-double, and he's limiting what Alex Len can do, despite the fact that Len did have 8 and 6 with a block in his 18 minutes. It's just not happening for Len, while Watson continues to rely on the veterans on this team. TJ Warren had 19 in his 32 minutes, 2 triples, 5 rebounds, and a steal. Own him wherever you can. And Marquise Chris, the impressive feat of almost having a foul a minute, 7 minutes, 5 fouls. There is no reason to own Marquise Chris in any league. Sorry, Suns fans, almost gave you a heart attack by calling him Marquise. Toronto and Utah. Kyle Lowry, huge again, 36, 4 and 5, 4 triples, 2 steals, 15 of 20 from the field, just absolutely flying. If you can get top 10 value back from him in a trade, I would do it. Jonas Valanciunas had some foul trouble. He got Gobert, but still was productive. 14 and 7 with a steal and a block, but played just 16 minutes, and that enabled Bebe Nogueira to play 32 minutes. Bebe had 9 points. Bebe had 6 boards. Bebe had 2 steals. He had a block. He hit a 3 as well. And it's not the first 3 he's hit in his career. So a big night from Bebe. I don't believe that you want to go and add Bebe in 12-team leagues. This is a foul trouble issue. He's been solid. He's a streaming guy on weekends for defensive numbers, and he'll occasionally have the big game, but it's just not predictable enough. DeMar had 24 and 6 and added 4 steals, and Damari Carroll is terrible. 2 and 4, 2 steals, 24 minutes. Cut his ass. Get rid of him in 10s. Get rid of him in 12s. His biggest contribution to fantasy this year is stifling Norm Powell. Powell wasn't great here, 2 points in 19 minutes, but Damari is being consistently horrible, and I don't really think you need to own him in 12-team leagues. Pat played 33 minutes and had 3 points, while Pascal Siakam in the Noah Vonleh Memorial starting power forward position had 0 points in 6 minutes. Really not a great night from Pascal. On to the Jazz. I touched on Roddy Hood's issues that enabled Joey Ingles to play a bigger role. 29 minutes for Ingles, 9, 2 and 7, 4 steals and 2 triples. Whenever this guy plays, he produces. It's as simple as that. At this point, with the Dante and George Hill injuries, you've got to look at Ingles in 14 or 16 team leagues. He gets steals, he gets assists, he shoots the lights out from 3, he hits them, obviously, and that can be valuable in those deeper formats. Gobert double-doubled but didn't have a block, but still a nice night. Hayward had 23 with 5 assists and a 111, and Shelvin Mack, starting in place of Exum and Hill, went 17, 4 and 5 with 2 triples. A really decent short-term ad with Hill and Exum both out for probably the next week. Derek Favors still only playing 15 minutes, 6 and 7. He's a tough bastard to own at the moment, just not getting enough minutes, but we know the upside is right there, while Trey Lyles had probably his best game of the year, 19 and 7 with 4 triples in 30 minutes for Lyles. I don't think that makes us want to go, well, let's go grab Trey Lyles. It's really his first decent game for majority of the year. I still do believe in him long term in a pretty significant way. I think he's going to be a really good player. San Antonio and Portland. Kawhi, 33, 3 and 2 with 5 triples and 10 of 10 from the line is obviously fantastic. While LaMarcus Aldridge, what is this for Aldridge? Is it him turning it around? Is it him playing against Portland? Is it him playing without Pau Gasol? I tend to think it's him playing without Pau Gasol. I better tell you what he did, because he played 37 minutes, he went 18, 4 and 6, and he had 3 steals. And he took 18 shots, the most on the team, which is well above what he's been doing for the season. But when Pau comes back, he won't get these rebounds. He won't get these shot attempts. and I wouldn't look at this and go, yeah, man, this is the kickstart of a second half surge. As long as Powell's there, I think there's a real issue with LaMarcus moving forward, and it potentially keeps him outside the top 50. Dwayne Dedman started and really pairs well with Aldridge in my mind. 6 and 7 in 27 minutes for Dedman with 2 blocks, while Dave Lee had 4 and 9 in his 20 minutes. Not a terrible night, but not a great night. Loved what I saw from DeJounte Murray as well. 9, 3 and 1, 20 minutes as the starter. Parker hasn't got long left. Mills is a free agent and he's older than you think. DeJounte Murray, I really like him in dynasties for maybe 2-3 years in the future. I think he can be a dynamic fantasy contributor. It's just going to be a fair distance away. Love what I've seen from him the last couple of games. Kyle Anderson, after topping the fantasy stats for the Spurs yesterday, had 2 points in 16 minutes, and that's basically been the story of his season. Speaking of up and down, Myers Leonard was a DNP-CD last game, and here he played 28 minutes and had 16 and 5 with 4 triples. We know the talent, we know the shooting, we just know that he's just not going to play this often or this amount very often, so just chalk that up to a fluky one. CJ McCollum had 16, 6 and 3. He had 3 triples and 2 steals, which is a really good night. Prior to this game, in the last 7 games, he'd had 1 total steal. He's shooting the ball at 48% this year, but he has been off the last few. I think he's outside the top 100 over the last week. His numbers have dipped. So just keep an eye on him and just, I don't think he's been as impressive this season. 16, 5 and 10 for Dame Lillard. Not a great night there from Dame. While Mason Plumlee really struggled here. He only played the 15 minutes, and that enabled Myers Leonard to get that extra playing time. Al-Farouq Aminu back starting, 29 minutes, all systems go. 6, 2 and 2 with 2 triples. I like him in 12s, and I wouldn't be too bothered by Mo Harkless's piss poor night. 8 and 2. He was 0 of 4 from the line. He still had a steal and a block. I am still holding him in 12-team leagues. The last game of the night was a buzzer beater as the Dallas Mavericks in Los Angeles got the victory over the Clippers. Now, it was not the normal Clippers, no Chris Paul, no Blake Griffin, but the pencil nails the game-winning shot. 24 points for Barnes in 38 minutes, 6 boards, a steal and a block, and been one of the surprise packets of the season. There was no Bogut, there was no Barea, so we got 25 minutes of Seth Curry. 3 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals. Leave him for the 16-teamers, I would guess. Dirk is back. He started at centre, he played 15 minutes, had 17 and 4 with 2 triples. It's a great sign that he's back. He is going to be on a restriction for a little bit of time, but I don't hate grabbing him in a 12-team league for efficient scoring with some threes, with a little bit of rebounding. But don't expect top 50 Dirk, expect top 90 sort of style Dirk. So not an own in every situation. Dwight Powell still had 3 steals, but played only the 18 minutes, so that little 12-team league run based on high efficiency numbers is probably going to dip. We'll drop off right now. 12, 5 and 9 from Darren Williams and 16 and 6 for Wesley Matthews. Salah Mejri to the bench, played the 21 minutes here, 5 and 8, while Dorian Finney-Smith was scoreless in 30 minutes. And there is no reason to be owning Mejri or Finney-Smith in any league that's 16 teams or shallower, I would guess. For the Clippers, big night from Jamal Crawford, 26 points, 6 assists, 3 triples. You're taking on that playmaking role and the scoring load with Paul and Griffin both out. Luke Marmute played 38 minutes. He had a good defensive night, 6 boards, 3 steals and 2 blocks, but obviously we leave him for the 16-teamers. Austin Rivers stepped up, 16 points, 4 triples and 2 steals. I think he's a borderline 12-team league guy. Let's see when Paul comes back, which probably will be on Sunday. How Rivers goes in that situation. Ray Felton didn't play that well in a start, 8, 4 and 2. But if Paul misses, then Felton and Rivers do become stream options definitely for Sunday with the 5 games on Christmas. DeAndre Jordan, the 17 boards, but only 7 points. Still had 2 blocks and a steal, so some nice nights there, numbers there. But Mo Spates back to being just a backup center, played only minutes replacing DeAndre Jordan. That is it. 10 and 4 for Mo with 2 triples and a steal. His ownership's gone up to 21%. I would not be considering him a must-own in 12-team leagues. He will have the occasional flash of a game, but it's just not reliable enough. It's more 14, maybe 16-teamers for Mo Spates at this point. All right, I'm going to take a quick break now, and then we're going to be back to preview the 5 games that we've got coming up on Christmas Day. Alright guys, we're back. Let's talk perfect DFS from Friday. On FanDuel, Russ had 72.7, Paddy Mills at 35.1. The shooting guards were Yanni at 62.6 and Zachary Levine at 50.2. Small forwards, a little bit punty here. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist at 35.8. Really tough to have gotten him into a lineup, I would have thought. And PJ Tucker at 32.2. Power forward Serge Ibaka 48.2, LaMarcus Aldridge 49.8, and Greggy Munro at 33.2 as the centre for a total of 419.8 points. On DraftKings, Lord Alfred Payton 47.75, Jamal Crawford 35.75, Nick Batum 56.75, Aldridge 52, Ibaka 51.25, Rusty Westbrook 82.25, Ryan Anderson 46.75, and Amir Johnson sneaking in with a 36.5 performance to give you a total of 409 points. Now, when we listen to this, or when you listen to this, when I talk about this, we're talking about Christmas. So we're talking about games that are 36 hours away, maybe a little bit less, maybe 30 hours away from beginning. From when I'm recording this, so a few things can change. Thankfully, there's not too many situations in these games that are really up in the air, apart from with the Lakers situation. So that's, I guess, good for trying to determine the value. And the Clippers. The Lakers-Clippers is one where a few things are up in the air. So we're still going to be able to get some pretty decent value coming out of these games. So let's talk about those 5 games from Christmas, starting off with the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. In terms of spread, this is currently listed as a pick'em, and the total is 212.5 points. Now, Kristaps Porzingis had to miss last game, or the end of last game, due to a knee injury. He should be fine. He should be ready to go. He's listed as probable, so we're expecting to grab Kristaps and have him ready to go for this game. At point guard, let's look. Derrick Rose, 6,400, has been putting up numbers probably a little bit below average over recent times, but some of that has been due to some blowouts and some limited minutes for Rose due to that back issue. So 6,400 is not a total write-off for using him. He has got an extra day's rest over basically everyone. Yes, him and the Knicks have got an extra day's rest over everyone else who's playing on Christmas, so that might be a factor as well. So I don't hate using Derrick Rose, but you're going to be wanting him to get 33 points around that mark, and with the potential of them putting Avery Bradley on him, that's somewhat of a concern. As for Isaiah Thomas, flying, averaging 51 over the last 3, 8,400. He shines in primetime situations. The Knicks are a challenge for point guards, so that's somewhat of a concern, but I don't hate using Isaiah Thomas at 8,400. I think that getting 40 points out of him shouldn't be considered too much of a stretch. The shooting guards, I don't love either of these guys. Courtney Lee's at 4,000. You know my take on him. It's yuck. And Avery Bradley at 6,400 just feels too high at that salary. His highest score over the last 5 has been 27. The Knicks present a good opportunity for him, but with everyone healthy, he just struggles to get that sort of a number. He's solid. If he was at 5,200, he'd be an absolute lock that's just going to give you 25 points most nights. But at 6,400, where you want 33, 34, it's just not a smart investment. Speaking of smart, 4,400 for Marcus Smart, not getting enough minutes to be considered to me, nor Justin Holiday. At small forward, Melo at 7,600. Really like Melo here in this spot. I think you should be looking at 35-ish. There's quite a few small forwards on the board. Durant, LeBron, Butler, Kawhi, all these guys. But Melo in that mid-priced range is pretty decent, and he's been playing fairly well recently. Jay Crowder hasn't been. He's at 5,300. I wouldn't be using Jay. He's a decent punt in a tournament. The projections favour him a little bit in this one, but I'm not totally on board with Jay Crowder. At power, any other small forwards? Jaylen Brown, no. Power forward, Kristaps Porzingis, 7,500. The numbers haven't been quite there for him yet, but the Celtics front court presents a really positive opportunity for him. So I think he's absolutely should be in consideration for your tournaments and even cash games. I don't think he's a total write-off there. Amir Johnson, I don't mind as a punt. Now, he had a massive 36-pointer today, but he's averaging 23 over the last 3, and he's almost at minimum salary. He is a GPP guy that if he gets the decent run, and big men have had some pretty big games against the Knicks in the past, I don't think there's... you get 18 points out of him, which is what he's averaging over the last 5 as well. Then you've got some value back. And the upside is 25, 26 points, not counting the 36 he had today. So I think Amir Johnson is a decent, cheap power forward option on this 5-game Christmas day. At centre, Joakim Noah, no. And then what do we do with Billy Hernan Gomez, with Kylo Quinn? O'Quinn's up to 5,500, so that's pretty much a write-off to me. You can use it in a tournament, sure, and he had 42 in the last game, but that's just way too expensive, and I don't love the upside. Billy Hernan Gomez at 42, I'm much more preferable to use that one because he's got 30-point upside at 4,200. Still not a great situation for any of these guys in cash, and Noah I wouldn't use in any of those situations. Al Horford, 7,500, continues to be way overpriced on FanDuel. When you look at him on DraftKings, his price is much lower, 6,500, and he is an absolute, not lock, but it's an awesome situation for Al over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, just way too high. I don't want to spend 7,600. Look, he had a good game today, 40 points, but that's a really, really good game. And 7,500, it just feels too high for Al. He has been playing well, not doubting that. I just don't like the feel of 7,500 on Al Horford. Let's talk the next game, which is, who is it? It's Golden State and Cleveland. I'm sure the one that everyone wants to see, really. The Warriors are favored by 3.5 points, and the total is the largest total on the day, 223 points and a half. Let's look at injuries, and thankfully there aren't any to really pay attention to in this game, so that's always good to know. At point guard, Steph Curry, 8,600. You're probably just a little bit too highly priced, I think, over on FanDuel. I don't love the salary for him there. It's okay, but he's struggled to reach value majority this season. He's averaging just a tick under 39 over the last three, but at 8,600, you want well above that. And yes, Kyrie is a positive matchup, but it's not like Steph has really ever excelled against the Cavs. So not all that interested in using him. As for Kyrie, 8,000, that's a big jump in salary, but he has been killing it at the moment. He generally does pretty well against Golden State. I'm okay with using. I would have loved it at 7,500, but at 8,000, I'm okay with looking at Kyrie there. He's a decent guy to have a look at. Absolutely. The other point guard, Sean Livingston, no thanks. Shooting guards, Klay Thompson, 6,200, just a tournament guy to take a punt on, I think. Definitely no way you can use him in cash. He's quite up and down. He had just the 23 today. He's averaging 29 over the last 5. But we know he can drop a 50. He can drop a 60. And the matchup here is pretty decent for him, especially with J.R. Smith out of the lineup and stretching the wing depth of this team. Now, DeAndre Liggins is a good defender, but which way does he go? Does he go onto Steph or does he stay on Klay? So that could open things up a little bit for Klay Thompson here. So worth a look in a tournament. Iman Shumpert, 3,900. The increased role is there for him, but I'm not sure that this is a really good spot to use him, nor is DeAndre Liggins. For the small forwards, it's LeBron, it's Durant. Which one is the one to go for? I'm not sure that either of them is a must-play guy, but it does give you options. Durant is probably a little bit preferable given he is $600 cheaper on FanDuel at 9,500. He's averaging 42 over the last 3, so not putting up the best numbers, whereas LeBron at 10,100 is averaging 49 over the last 3, 49 over the last 5, so still coming in just a little bit undervalued, but we know what LeBron can do against Golden State, and I would lean towards that, and I would lean towards taking LeBron just for overall value, but obviously the $600 you save on Durant makes him appealing in that sense. So I guess it just depends on how you've structured the rest of your team. So both guys are absolutely in play. Andre Iguodala is not. At power forward, Draymond Green, I like him at 7,900. The matchup might be considered somewhat tough, but I do think that he's in line for 40-plus points here, so I do like him. He's actually more expensive on DraftKings than he is on FanDuel, but I do like him on DraftKings just as much, if not more. So both guys are he's a play on both sides to me, Draymond. As for Kevin Love, 8,400, hate it. He gets marginalized against the Warriors. It's like that. Centers against the Warriors gets killed. Yeah, Love gets limited. No chance that I'm spending 8,400 on Kevin Love. None whatsoever. Channing Frye, look, if they do limit Love, then maybe Frye comes in, but probably not. I can't really see that being an optimal situation. Dave West, no thanks. Tristan Thompson at 5,000. Big game today, but centers against the Warriors, it's never appealing. So that is not appealing to me, nor will Zaza Pachulia, because centers against the Cavs is almost as big a pain in the ass. And JaVale McGee, no. Just not enough minutes to go around, unfortunately, for JaVale to be a useful option. Forgot to click the Cavs logo up. All right, let's go to the Chicago Bulls and the San Antonio Spurs now. The Spurs are favored by 7.5 points, and the total is 201 2.5 points here. Now, Manu, Tony Parker, Pau Gasol should all be back for the Spurs. We have to check on the status of both Taj Gibson and Robin Lopez, who got suspended. No, they didn't. They got ejected. We have to check whether they get suspended. I would be highly doubtful that they do get suspended. If one of them goes, then Nick Mirotic definitely becomes an option, and he becomes someone that you look at, because I reckon he would have to play some extra minutes. And the Mirotic-Gibson pairing is a pretty impressive one. Let's talk point guards. Rajon Rondo, I don't like him, but 5,400 makes him definitely in play. He's averaging 32 over the last 3. He's averaging 35 the last 3 times he's played San Antonio. Yeah, absolutely no worries using him at 5,400. No, Tony Parker, Patty Mills, they're not real defensive threats, and Kawhi is not switching on to Rajon Rondo, so that's no issue there. So absolutely fine using Rondo. Patty Mills at 3,800 it was beautiful today as he had 35 points, but with Parker likely back in the lineup, that does cap what Mills can do. So 3,800 is a tournament only type of play, but not a high confidence one. Tone Parker at 4,000 at minimum salary, I'd say yes. At 4,000, I absolutely say no. And Jaren Grant, who's been getting a few minutes recently, he doesn't put up enough numbers. Dwayne Wade at 6,600. Yeah, no. Look, I don't mind him, given it's Christmas and we know that Wade can put up some numbers in big games and all that sort of stuff. But I just don't love the matchup here against San Antonio. Really on either FanDuel or DraftKings, not interesting for me for Wade. Dan Green, Manu, no thanks on either of those players. For the small forwards, Jim Butler at 7,800. The Kawhi matchup is concerning. No doubt about that. I think he's worth a look in tournaments, but in cash, with a $600 price drop on FanDuel, that's a $900 price drop on DraftKings. I think that there's definite tournament upside for Jim Butler, because what if he carries this team? What if stuff happens and it all comes together and he drops a 45? There's definite upside to there, but with Kawhi probably going to be on him, it's tough. As for Kawhi, he's at 8,000. Now, Jimmy Butler on him, you'd think that maybe that's an issue, but the Bulls have actually been a positive for opposition small forwards this season. So, Kawhi at 8,000, getting 40 points, I think is absolutely fine. So I like Kawhi in both cash and in tournament spots. Dougie McDermott, no thanks. Johnny Simmons, Kyle Anderson, Davis Bertans, no. Power forwards, Taj at 4,900. The matchup I hate. It's not a good matchup for Taj. We assume that he is going to play, but his salary is down to 4,900. I'm still not going to use him in this matchup. Dave Lee, no thanks either. LaMarcus at 6,400. Great matchup against the Bulls. Superb matchup. But what is the power effect? And how is that going to impact what Aldridge can do? I like the fact that he's at 6,400 and maybe we get 33 points out of him and he repays value. Tournament for Aldridge, really cash, it's too tough to rely upon. Nick Mirotic, I like Mirotic if one of these guys happens to be out. On DraftKings, he's at 3,600, so I even think that's worth a punt in a tournament regardless of the status of those guys, because he gets hot and has a double-double in 19 minutes off the bench and he's paid back value. Over on FanDuel at 4,000, and with a different scoring system, I'm not as interested in him. He is averaging 23 over the last 3, and he is worth a look in a tournament, but that's really about it. Not as high on him on FanDuel as I am on DraftKings. At centre, Rob Lopez at 4,500. The Spurs matchup is a concern, but 4,500 is a decent price if you're looking to punt a tournament guy at centre. I don't think that's probably the best way to go, but it is an option. Dwayne Dedmon, the minutes won't likely be there. Pau Gasol should be back. He's playing his former team. He's at 6,500 on FanDuel. I do think that Pau is a pretty solid guy to have a look at here. I think that on both sides. In fact, on DraftKings, I like him a little bit more with his floor being relatively high, especially for cash gains. But I do like what he's been doing recently, and I think that there's against a weakish front court in terms of fantasy stats against his former team, and his role's been fine. I'm all for Pau on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Let's take a look at the next game. Who is the next game? The next game is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are favored by 4.5 points, and the total here is 204. Let's talk point guards, of course. It starts with Russ. He's at $12,600 over on FanDuel. He dropped just a casual 73 today. He's averaging 63 over the last 5. With 5 games on, I think it is okay to use Russ, but obviously it's expensive and you've got to find some cheap guys around. I think that your best option at point guard is going for middle price players on this slate, but getting Russ in there and feeling like you're going to get 60 against a Timberwolves team who hasn't been great defensively is obviously a fine strategy. As for Rubio, love the matchup for Rubio. 5,800, he's averaging 31 over the last three. The Westbrook matchup is not a challenge. Other point guards do put up big numbers relatively frequently. I like him on both FanDuel and DraftKings. He's actually more expensive over on DraftKings, but he put up 39 points over on DraftKings today, so that the scoring system does suit him a little bit better over there. I think he's in play on both of those sites. Probably more just a solid cash guy rather than a high upside tournament play. Vic Oladipo, we don't know if he is going to play. I wouldn't use him even if he plays. And if he's out, it doesn't do much for me to look at and go, yeah, let's get Alex Abrines, let's get Samaje Kristen, let's get Anthony Morrow, let's get Jeremy Grant. None of those guys really tickle my fancy in that spot. Zachary Levine, love him. 6,500 on FanDuel. He dropped 50 today. He's averaging 37 over the last 5. Still is underpriced, so absolutely no issue. 6,400 on DraftKings, and he's averaging 40 over the last 5. Still underpriced over there as well, so I think he's fine to use on both sides with a fair degree of confidence. Andrew Wiggins at 6,400. Not a great night from Wiggo today. If I'm spending that 6,000, I'm taking Levine, almost no doubt at all in my mind. Now, the Andre Robertson defense is a concern. Does he go to Levine? Does he go to Wiggins? How do they run things? And that might be an impact. I think that he does take Wiggins just because the bigger body, and that sort of takes Wiggins out of too much consideration for me. As for Robertson, he's at 3,900. He's a 21-point average over the last 3 on FanDuel at 3,900. Look, if you're struggling and you've got, say, Russ in a lineup, then Robertson is absolutely someone you can consider in that situation just to help get some decent production at a low salary. I like him on DraftKings a little bit more. He's the scoring system suits him a little bit there. He's averaging 23 points over the last 3 games over on DraftKings. So he's fine to sort of pair with Russ in that situation just to help get your overall salary contribution down. Gorgie Jeng at 5,600. I think that is absolutely fine to use him against his Thunder team. I don't know how high his upside is, but I feel like you're going to get 27 out of him pretty much most nights that he goes out there at this point. Enes Kanter, love him. 5,100. I won't say love him because there is always the risk that he gets limited, but this is a team that plays big, the Timberwolves. Kanter had a 29-pointer today. He's averaging 34 over the last 3 against Minnesota in 22 minutes only. He does play well against this team. They go big. He's at 5,100. Absolutely no issue with using Enes Kanter and getting you 30 plus points potentially. So I do really like using him in this spot. Domantas Sabonis had a big one today, but I wouldn't be expecting too many other big Sabonis performances, while Nemanja Bjelica is really limited off the bench. He's averaging just 6 points in the last 3 games. At center, Towns, 9,100. Steve Adams is a negative impact, but not negative enough for me to not consider Towns. I think at 9,100 you should be looking at 45 plus here, and that's absolutely enough to meet value. As for Adams at 5,200, don't hate it. I think it's decent, but it really isn't the most exciting center play that's out there on the board. All right, we have got one game left to look at for Christmas, and it is the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, we need to check the status of Chris Paul, who I do believe will be back. Julius Randle, whose partner gave birth today, Friday. So he should be back. And Tariq Black with the ankle issue that's kept him out for an extended period of time. Let's talk point guards here. D'Angelo Russell at $6,000. If there's no Chris Paul, I'm much more on board with D'Angelo Russell, and I am more on board with him on other sites. The 6,000 on FanDuel is just a little bit too expensive for me, though. But if there's no Chris Paul, then he does become an option. And the 30 minutes a game over the last 2 has been very interesting. As for Paul at 9,600, if he is fine to go, this matchup is as good as it gets. I think that he's absolutely worth a look. I'm not sure he's necessarily the best point guard option out there. That would be guys like, well, you see later on, but guys like Rubio in that lower price point zone, or even a D'Angelo Russell might enable you to get some other high price guys like Towns in or LeBron. But Paul is definitely he's definitely in a good spot if he happens to play. Now, if he misses Austin Rivers at 4,400 or Ray Felton at 3,600 come into play, I would look to Rivers a little bit more because he can play multiple positions. He was much better today, but Felton is absolutely going to be in play if Chris Paul happens to miss. At shooting guard, JJ Redick at 4,500. Love him for tournaments here. And take on some of Blake's usage and look to get 25 to 30. In cash, I would have no confidence in that at all. Lou Williams, my confidence is dwindling. 5,700 for Lou. No thanks there. And Jamal Crawford, same story as Redick. Like it in cash, but his salary has jumped. Sorry, like it in tournaments, but his salary has jumped now by $800 on FanDuel, which makes him a little bit tough to use. Despite a really big game today, with Chris Paul coming back, he probably won't be able to do quite the same level of stuff. Uncle P at 4,700, that really doesn't get me excited against this Clippers team. Lou Deng at 4,700, that's what I like. You want to go cheap at small forward, I think Deng's the guy to go for. Averaging 26 over the last 5 on FanDuel. No issues using him whatsoever. Get your 25, get your 26. The minutes are stable. The production's been stable recently. I like Lou Deng there. Brandon Ingram, no thanks. Luke Marmute, no thanks either. The power forwards. Julius Randle at 6,200. Still hate that price on FanDuel, but I actually don't completely hate it. If we assume he is going to play, which I do assume he plays, I think that he will definitely be worth a look in a tournament. On DraftKings, I think he's an even better option. I think he's even a bit safer for cash over there with the scoring system and a cheaper salary. He's $500 cheaper over on DraftKings, so I do like Randall in that spot over on DraftKings a little bit more than FanDuel. Mo Spates' price has jumped up to 4,300. He did nothing today. That is a tournament punt at the best, and it could come because of a blowout. We might see some more Mo Spates minutes, and that could happen, but in cash, I think you're making a big mistake. Tom Robinson's been good the last 2 games, averaging 23 over his last 3, which is impressive, but I just don't see that if Randall and Black are both back, which is a huge possibility, he probably won't see any minutes at all. At center, DeAndre Jordan has been a little bit disappointing, but the matchup against the Lakers really suits him. At 7,300, he's a decent mid-price center and definitely someone that you could filter into matchups and use. I don't love him quite as much over on DraftKings as I do on FanDuel. His price is more expensive over on DraftKings. I don't really think that he's a great option there. Tim Mozgov, Tariq Black, neither of those guys are really worth the time of day, I don't believe. All right, let's take a look at the picks of the day. Well, not the picks of Christmas Day. On FanDuel, we've got Jordy Clarkson at 49. Did I even talk about Clarkson in that one? I didn't. I probably should have mentioned Jordy Clarkson considering I've got him as a pick of a day. He's at 4,900, Jordy, in that matchup. He's putting up decent numbers, and if you want to take a punt on a cheap point guard, there aren't many of them around. I would take Austin Rivers if Chrissy Paul is out, but Clarkson is a cheap guy to go for at that price point, but really no cash reliability. All right, let's start the picks of the day again. Jordy Clarkson, 49, Rajon Rondo, 54, and Russ Westbrook, 12-6. At shooting guard, Redick is 45, Klay Thompson, 62. At small forward, Lou Deng, 47, Mallow, 76, and Kawhi at 8,000. The power forwards, Amir Johnson at 36, Enes Kanter, 51, and the centers, Robin Lopez, 45, DeAndre, 73, and Karl Towns, 91. On DraftKings, Brandon Jennings at 3,700 is a real punt option, maybe get you some assists at that nice salary. Rick Rubio, 59, and Rusty at 12,500. For the shooting guards, Andre Robertson, 39, Klay Thompson, 65, and that's all the shooting guards. At small forward, Nick Mirotic is at 3,600, which I touched on earlier. Jimmy Butler, 75, and LeBronald at 10,300. The power forwards, Enes Kanter, 43, Gorgie Jeng, 55, and Draymond, 8,000. And the centers, Mo Spates is a punt at 4,000. Al Horford, 65, and Karl Towns, 8,300. Let's talk about the Aussie sites on Moneyball. Tone Parker is minimum salary. I can get behind Tone at minimum salary. Rick Rubio, 5,400, and Steph is at 8,000. A much better price for Steph at that salary. Shooting guards, Jamal Crawford is also minimum salary. Zachary Levine is at 63. The small forwards, Lou Deng, 46, Mallow, 79, and Kawhi at 8,000. The power forwards, Mo Spates as a punt at 37, Gorgie Jeng at 52, and the centers, Enes Kanter, 48, Pau Gasol, 62, and Townsy at 9,300. On DraftStars, the DraftStars contests have 3 games, so they don't have the Boston-New York game, and they don't have the Golden State-Cleveland games. So at point guard, Austin Rivers, 73, Rajon Rondo, 10-7, and Russ Westbrook, 24-2. Shooting guards, Robertson 7,000, Wade 11.5, Butler 14.750, small forwards Lu Deng 7.950, Wigo 12.050, and Kawhi at 16.550. The power forwards, Mo Spates 7,000, Gorgie Jeng 10.150, and the centers Enes Kanter 9.850, and Carl Towns 16,000. We are done here, guys. Hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you're celebrating at this time. I hope you guys enjoy yourself. I hope you guys enjoy the break with your family, off from work, whatever it is you're doing. Thank you for supporting the program all through the season. I hope you have a very special holiday time of the year. We are done, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Toby Harris.